when you're in the mix with Peace Corps, you think that there's so many that have done Peace Corps service, but in reality, it's only 250,000 Americans in the history of Peace Corps. So the community that we're actually a part of is actually quite small.
I heard about the Peace Corps, believe it or not, from a movie with Tom Hanks called Volunteers.
I think I originally heard about Peace Corps watching NFL football on Sundays and seeing those old commercials, the toughest job you'll ever love.
My parents are actually RPCVs, and they met in the Peace Corps. They were in Togo in the 1970s. And I honestly hadn't given a lot of thought to the Peace Corps until it was my senior year of college, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next.
When I was in university for my third year, I had a project that I did abroad in Cameroon for 3 months. I met a Peace Corps volunteer, and I had time to admire and just to observe how they interacted with their community, how integrated they were, the way that they could speak the local language and just got around so freely. So that really inspired me to have a more in-depth and longer-term experience like the one that I was already having.
Wanted a change. I wanted to volunteer. I'd never traveled outside of North America, and I just wanted to try and go do something hard and different and learn something new and hopefully help a little bit while doing it.
From my time as a sailor in the United States Navy, I remember being attached to a U.S. Aircraft carrier, the Nimitz, and we pulled into many different ports. And every time I got off the ship, I only spent about maybe 8 hours to be able to see a little bit of the country, learn about people, and I said that, you know what, the next time I travel to a foreign country, I want to be able to stay longer than a 2-day Liberty Port visit so I can learn more about the people, the culture, and the places I was visiting. The moment I stepped off the plane, the smell of Africa, I knew that I had arrived.
I lived in Cadillac, Senegal, which is one of the hotter places on earth. And on Sundays, with a friend of mine, Sam Ndour, we would play Scrabble under a tree. And it was in French, and my French was a little bit rough, but I was fairly good at the vocabulary in French. And I won one Sunday, and then I went back the next Sunday, and I won the next Sunday. And then I didn't hear from Sam the next week, and I saw him on Monday, and I said, hey, what happened to Scrabble? And he said, oh, we played. And so, I got disinvited from the Scrabble game. So, but it was a nice sort of memory for me in terms of just being integrated and being able to play a board game with my Senegalese friends.
I was an English teacher, and one of the ways that I taught English was to get the kids practicing in the classroom. So I would ask a question, and then I would have the other students ask the question to other students. And the question was, what do you like to do? And the other student would answer, I like to. So one of the biggest troublemakers in the class stood up. This is in Guinea, this is rural Guinea in 1998 probably. He stood up and he said, Madame, I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. And that pretty much disrupted the class for the next hour and a half because we were all laughing. I was laughing the hardest.
I had a time where I worked with another volunteer at his site at a primary teachers college. So we had a spontaneous moment and decided to teach the students about the Haitian Revolution. And it's just a side of history that they'd never learned about before, and tying that into African history and how much they gained from it, how enlightened they were from it, how much they related to it, and how passionate they got about the topic and learning this kind of history. It was just a beautiful moment to see their eyes open, and it's something that I'll just never forget.
The PCV community in general is just vast. People that come from various backgrounds and experiences that all started with Peace Corps. Some ambassadors, some foreign service officers, some directors of NGOs or staff members of NGOs.
Peace Corps had everything to do with shaping what I'm doing now. having served for 2 years in the Dominican Republic and having it be such a positive experience, I was exposed to the travel bug, the culture bug, the adventure bug, and the development bug.
Peace Corps has greatly shaped my life, my career, my family, from Senegal to Guinea, and then working for Peace Corps headquarters for about 8 years, and then serving as the Peace Corps country director in Cameroon. So Peace Corps has had about 10 years of my life already, and due to get another 5, so it'll be about 15.
Before joining Peace Corps, I thought I was going to be a teacher in the U.S. and work in inner city schools. And after Peace Corps, I fell in love with health education and working overseas.
Being here, my career path has definitely shifted from what I thought or envisioned that I would be doing before. I'm more clear on my path now. I think the beautiful thing about Peace Corps is having a lot of time to discover what you would do in situations where you're uncomfortable and don't know what to do or don't have any resources. And through that, it's really allowed me to grow, especially in the visions that I have for the future. So I definitely envision myself living on the continent of Africa now for a longer period of time. I see myself working more in grassroots ways, community development. I just want to travel and live now, not just travel for short-term periods, but really live and experience people. That's what Peace Corps has really inspired me to do, is experience the people and the cultures that I encounter, not just see for a short moment.
I had spent all of my adult life in one state, in Virginia, and I'd worked in the business world and then the higher education world, but I'd never traveled outside of North America. Being here had definitely broadened my perception a bit of the larger world, of the different lives people are leading everywhere.
I'm real proud of my third years. The volunteers that had gone through the third year program had gotten those first jobs at Japago or gotten their first jobs with the UN. It's really one of the most rewarding things that I could do.
I lived in Masaka for my first 2 years of service, and then I extended and moved to northern Uganda, and now I'm serving with Oxfam International as a third-year volunteer. I've absolutely loved and appreciated my Peace Corps experience, and I know that when I move back to the U.S. here in 6 months, I will not be the same person as the person I left Uganda, and I'm going to take all my experiences in public health with me to grad school to pursue a Master in Public Health degree. So it's going from nursing, which was what I was doing in the US, now to public health. Peace Corps has been a transition experience for me to get into the field of public health, and I'm very grateful for that.
All the people that I grew up with, my family, my friends, they all just thought I was crazy to do this unusual thing. But as I used to say to my volunteers in service, Peace Corps allows you to find your tribe. And I think that that's one of the most important benefits of Peace Corps, is that you find a group of like-minded Americans that all have a little bit of idealism in them and have a little bit of wanting to make the world a better place.
You know, it's a cliche, but it's a very true cliche that being a PCV, being an RPCV, it puts you in a special group. And when I meet other RPCVs, you know, through my work or in social engagements, there is this immediate connection.
I met Bev just a few months ago. We were having an RPCV gathering at a friend's house. What I didn't know is that I would actually meet Bev, someone who was a volunteer in my actual town, several years before me, and I remember her name from being in the town because she was very popular and people would tell me about her. I never expected to meet her, and certainly didn't expect to meet her in Uganda.
Wherever you go, you will find a group of Peace Corps volunteers that have, even if you've served 20 years apart in different countries, you all have these same stories to share and these skills and experiences, and it is invaluable.
Well, I actually have an opportunity to do that because our daughter, Katie, has decided to join the Peace Corps, and she's currently serving in Benin in West Africa as a community health volunteer. So she's following in my footsteps.
Here's my younger self. This is my Peace Corps ID that I got when I became a volunteer. She looks so naive and happy and young. So I would have advised my younger self that this is just to really relish the time that you have, even the challenges and the difficulties, because it wasn't easy. There were a lot of times where I would just cry and wanted to leave, and what am I doing? Why am I here? It was hard, and I don't think at the time I knew that it would change my life the way it did. It made me a stronger person. It made me a better person. It certainly made me a better development person.
I would advise the same thing that I did at the time. I didn't know I was doing it right, but in the end, I felt like I really did my Peace Corps service right. I stayed at my site. I made friends in my village. Like I said, one of the best memories are sitting under the tree or sitting under the payote having tea with the friends that I made in the village.
Take a passion that you have, whether it be knitting or biking or languages, and share that with your community. To the extent that you can communicate and connect with the community on a personal level, you're going to build a relationship, and relationships are everything. They build trust, and with that trust, it makes you more effective in the work that you do, and I think it makes it more rewarding. Things are going to be tough, but that's what you signed up for. This is something completely different that the vast majority of Americans would never think of doing.
I think it gives you the grassroots experience that you need in order to make better decisions when you get older and more mature in your career. When you have responsibilities, you can still reflect back on that time when you were a Peace Corps volunteer. And I think it helps you make better decisions as a result.
It really is the toughest job that the love comes a little later sometimes, but it's worth it.